Oke. Ya. Tes. Just to check the quality of IT. Hello, Mrs. Carla Getin. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presence. How about Mr. Brian McEwan? Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you for your presence. I'm sorry about the technical preparation. We need more time, so I hope you understand about the time.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you. I'm sure a few seconds will be start. Ibu nunggu apa-apa dari IT ya. Oke? Oke. Kan 51 pasti kelas saya kan rumah sakit pada semua.
Kemudian tes. Kemudian, can we start?
Wait a moment, I still wait for Pak IT.
Pak Babang.
Yang di belakang bisa mengisi dulu yang di depan. Di sebelah kiri boleh diisi.
Kita berdua aja ya.
Mas pakai mic enggak, Mas? Pakai mic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil wa bihi nasta'inu ala umuri dunya wadin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'du. The Honorable Vice Dean of Faculty of Educational Science, Dr. Nandang Budiman, MSI, the Honorable Head of Pedagogik Study Program, Dr. Haj Babang Robandi, MPD, the Honorable, the representative of City Glasgow College, and also the speaker, and then the Honorable, all of the audience. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and for the representative from City of Glasgow College, and also the speaker, good morning. We in the different time, so of course will be different. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dian Penny Asiani. It is a precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony on this very special occasion, the general lecture with the topic Digital Transformation of International Education. First of all, let's say thank to the God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us guidance, happiness, healthy, and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this special event without any obstacle. Praise and salutation upon our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who brought us to the path of the light from the darkness in this life. Ladies and gentlemen, on this special day, we have several agenda as follow. The first is opening. Apologize us because of the preparation of the technical, so we just start the opening. The next will be continued by second agenda. There are some speech. The first speech is report of the general lecture. The second one, the speech from representative of City of Glasgow College, Scotland, United Kingdom. And the third one, general lecture opening speech. And then the next agenda, they are going to main lecture will be delivered by Mr. Brian McEwan. After the presentation, the next agenda, we will be provide question and answer session. And the last is a questionnaire prize delivery and closing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully all of the agenda in general lecture will be running well. So let's begin this event by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Come to the next agenda, some speech. The first speech will be delivered by Dr. Haji Babang Robandi, MPD, as head of Magister program of Pedagogik study program. to Mr. Babang Rubandi. Please welcome.
Terima kasih. Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good evening, selamat siang menjelang sore. Honorable, the Dean of Faculty of Education, Faculty of Educational Science, or Vice Dean of Faculty of Educational Science, Bapak Dr. Nandang Budiman, MSc, the Honorable of the Representative of City of Glasgow College, Scotland, United Kingdom, Mrs. Carla Jatin, the Honorable Speaker from City of Glasgow College, Scotland, United Kingdom, Mr. Brian McEwan, PhD, and the Honorable participant of General Factor which are present in this room or online. First of all, may we thank God to the valuable opportunity provided to use the good heart that allow us to conduct and present in general lecture with topic digital transformation of international education. In this occasion, allow me to deliver the report of activities will be conducted. First, background of general lecture. Pedagogic study program realizes that education demand as dynamic as global changes. Education has responsible to preparing students to face global change in many aspects as the development of science, technology, community needs, societal needs, and the needs of graduate users, stakeholder needs. Educators are demanded to be creative and innovative in facilitate learning in accordance with the development of science, technology, and community needs. To create student active learning in global change era must be supported by teacher competencies in designing and developing international educational content for virtual learning environment in an effort to build the foundation to build future generation in accordance with the era of Revolution 4.0. This topic of general lecture is suitable to the teachers or students of Faculty of Science Education. Second, the aim of general lecture: increase the knowledge of designing and developing international educational content for virtual learning environment in an effort to build the foundation to build future generation in accordance with the era of Revolution 4.0 demand. Third, participant of general lecture, there are 100 participants consist to lecture of Faculty of Science Education, alumni, and active students. For mode of general lecture are online and offline in collaboration with City of Glasgow College, Scotland, United Kingdom. To the guest lecturer, speaker Mr. Brian McEwan, PhD. Allow me to thank to the valuable knowledge of digital transformation of international education you will be delivered. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the general lecture in collaboration with City of Glasgow College, Scotland, United Kingdom. Next, we would like to request to the Dean of Faculty of Education Science to open general lecture. Thank you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Bambang, for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, to express the beginning mutual understanding and cooperation program between UPI, the Education University, and City of Glasgow College, Scotland, UK, let's pay attention to the next speech will be delivered by Mrs. Carla Gettin as Director Business and International Partnership, City of Glasgow College, Scotland, UK. So to Mrs. Carla Gettin, please welcome to deliver speech.
Terima kasih. Selamat siang, good afternoon and good morning from Glasgow. Dr. Rudy, Dr. Babang, Dr. Dian, Dr. Ruspiono, faculty and students, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honour and my pleasure to speak at your opening session of your general lecture this afternoon. City of Glasgow College is delighted to be working in partnership with UPI and signed a letter of agreement on the 2nd of November to encourage engagement between our two institutions. The key purpose of our partnership is to enhance learning and teaching and pedagogy development through the exchange of best practice. I had the pleasure of visiting UPI in August this year and then had the honour of meeting Pat Rudy and Ibu Dian. So I'm delighted that we are here with you today to initiate our first engagement as partners in a short space of time. Today's guest lecture is Digital Transformation of International Education, and my colleague Brian will share his research on this topic shortly. While the COVID-19 pandemic temporarily halted cross-border students' mobility around the world, digital delivery of education gathered momentum. The pandemic served as a catalyst for digital transformation, forcing colleges, universities, lecturers, and students to shift online rapidly. Of course, the use of technology in education is nothing new, with many colleges and universities at the forefront of e-learning. However, there is no denying that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a leading role in pushing the use of technology forward. While digital interaction was initially a stopgap measure, the time is now right to enhance the digital transformation of education across the globe. Learning technologies and digital platforms are no longer an afterthought. They are now critical for teaching and learning. It is now widely recognised that digital transformation in education is paramount to providing positive learning experiences and student choice, driving future innovation in practice and delivery, and importantly, survival in the new digital world as access to education becomes a global service. I'm looking forward to listening to Brian's presentation this afternoon, and I hope you all enjoy today's guest lecture also. I look forward to the opportunity to explore future collaborative opportunities to innovate global learning and teaching practice with UPI. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carla Gettin. You already explained about the collaboration program between UPI, the educational university, and also City of Glasgow College. So we already hear together that how important to build the digital transformation of international education. Thank you, Carla. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next we are going to hear the last speech. The last speech is opening general lecture speech will be delivered by the Dean or the Vice of Dean of Faculty of Educational Science to Mr. Dr. Nandang Budiman MSI. Please welcome.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, and for Indonesia, and then good morning for Miss Carla and Mr. Brian McEwan, PhD. The Honorables, the Head of Pedagogik Study Program, Dr. Babang Robandi, MPD. The Honorables, the representative of City of Glasgow College, Ms. Carla, thank you very much for your commitment to this collaboration and to join us with in the general lecture. Thank you. And the Honorables, Mr. Brian McEwan, PhD, thank you very much for joining us today with as a keynote speaker. Thank you. And then my lecturers and my students in the pedagogical program, the Faculty of Educational Sciences, that's very honorable and success for you, all of you. And then thank you for all of commitments to these activities, for making the activities about general lecture in this day. This day we should express our gratitude to the presence of Allah, who brought us together to the general lectures with the theme Digital Transformation of International Education. The Faculty of Education Science really appreciates this general lectures. Moreover, have been raising the very urgent issues for the world of us, especially for the development and application in pedagogic sciences. We know that this era, in the 4.0 era, we know that today is Internet of Things. We know ayats, and we know technology of things, TOT. But besides, I think, so the transformation of education, international education, I think, this is become the urgent theme and very important theme as a foundation for us, how we be educated for this situation and how we develop our education program and other things for emphasize for our program in pedagogic study program. Hopefully this general lecture will be enlightening and inspiring all of us as researchers, as teachers, as students, and as practitioners to respond and answers accurately of challenges of pedagogic issues today. By the best, hoping the blessing of Allah, now I'd like to open the general lecture with the theme General Transformation of International Education, with the hope to do Allah with Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Success for our general lecture today. May Allah blessing us. Thank you. Ilaikum assalam. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the Vice Dean of the speech. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next come to the main agenda. There will be a presentation from a guest lecturer. We are happy here. It is the great time because our speaker, Mr. Brian McEwan, already here with us via Zoom meeting. Hello, Mr. Brian, good morning.
Hello, good morning, good evening to you all. Very pleased to be here.
Thank you for your presence. It is very happy for us. It is a great time to have this opportunity. So you are going to deliver, to share us about the knowledge with the topic of digital transformation of international education. Thank you for coming. And ladies and gentlemen, to organize this presentation, Here we already have a moderator, Pak Dr. Rusdiono Murianto, MT, as the moderator already here. Thank you, Pak Rusdiono. So the time is yours. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Now the Dr. Rusdiono will be organized the session of presentation. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Dian. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for preparing yourself to join this lecture today. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening and especially good morning there in Scotland. Respectable Dean of Faculty of Educational Science, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, which represented by Dr. Nandang, the Honorable Director of Business Partnership of City of Glasgow College, Mrs. Carla Gettin, and also the Honorable of the speaker today, Mr. Brian McEwan, and also all participants and also all dean and all lecturers in our Faculty of Educational Science. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Rusdiono Murianto, the moderator of today's lecture. I'm very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this general lecture. Today's lecture is very special because we will hold this lecture in two modes, offline mode and also online mode. And we know that we already have 95 participants in online. And yeah, ladies and gentlemen, our general lecture today is about digital transformation of international education, which will be presented through online mode by our speaker, Mr. Brian McEwan, BA Honoris, MSc GDMP. I don't know about that. Maybe Mr. Brian will explain about that. Directly from Scotland, and hope he is already joined with us, starting with today's. Allow me a little bit introduce Mr. Brian with some information I got about him. So Mr. Brian McEwan is lecturer of City of Glasgow College. And as you know, Glasgow College is largest college and technical institution in Scotland, located in Scotland's largest city, Glasgow. He is a professional in business education development with more than 15 years teaching experience in post and higher education. Mr. Brian, allow me to read this one. You finished your bachelor degree with honors in 2001 in Glasgow Caledonian University, and then you completed your postgraduate studies in 2010, complete his postgraduate course certificate in research in 2022, and aims to complete your PhD now in international education. As a lecturer in City of Glasgow College, you are also active working in Green Cross Global as the digital marketing executive. Is that right? Yeah, maybe that's a little bit about you, which I get from your LinkedIn. I already searched you from your Instagram and from your Twitter also. But maybe I'm sorry if there is mistake, then you have to correct it. And you tell me more about you. Okay, before the presentation begin, let me inform how this lecture will be going. First, Mr. Brian McEwan will invite it to present the material. After that, for all the participants, there will be a question and answer session and followed by a conclusion. Now, allow me to welcome to the speaker, special speaker today, Mr. Brian McEwan, to deliver his presentation in maybe time about 45 minutes. And after that, we can continue with the question. Mr. Brian, the time is yours.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So this is a digital transformation of international education in practice through the use of Zoom functions. And we're going to be using a Menti presentation today to help the interactivity for the presentation. And I hope that most of you will be able to see what we have in front of our screen just now. Give me some nodding heads to let me know you can see that. Thumbs up or...
Okay, all right. Can see that.
Everyone can see that. Good. So delighted to be here. My name is Brian McEwen. I am a lecturer at the City of Glasgow College, and I'm also a PhD researcher at Glasgow Caledonian University, when I'm undertaking my research around international student mobility, with a specific focus on Scottish colleges of further education, where I currently work. I do some other work around the university sector, which focuses on entrepreneurship and enterprise education, helping students and researchers and academics to set up businesses and create companies, as part of my role elsewhere. But my focus and my passion is in supporting international student mobilities for college students. So I have been involved in a number of projects over the years, with the aim of helping students to experience overseas education. I'm hoping that might be relevant and of interest to people within the conference today, within this lecture, and it might spark some interest in learning more about it. So the aim of today's session really is to see if we can encourage you to understand the motivations and the critical success factors that are involved with the digital transformation of outward international student mobility education. It seems apparent to us that, as it is with any education aspect, that the digitalization transformation is occurring just now. That's through COVID-19, obviously, where that's had a huge impact. But there's been a lot of determining factors prior to that as well. So we're going to look and explore that today as part of our learning outcome. To get onto the Menti, you can see you can use your mobile phone or go onto an alternative browser. And if you go to menti.com, hopefully you'll be able to see that you're invited to put in a code. And this is to help you to interact with this session. So hopefully we'll be able to get some comments and some questions from our participants today, who'll be able to give some indication as to what their interest is in either digital or international education. So if you go to menti.com and use the code 18580539, and if you see down in the bottom right-hand corner of this screen that I'm sharing with you, you see a little love heart. If you can click on the love heart, that'll let me know that you're in the Menti. Okay, I can see one person there already. That's good. At least I know it's working for one person. Menti.com 18580539, I believe is the right code.
Yeah, that's the right one, Brian. There's just another code underneath the 1858 that doesn't work, but the 28655394 works.
Right, apologies. Thank you, Carla, my trusted colleague, keeping me right here. Right, so it's a fresh Menti. Use the one on the top of the screen. Apologies. 28655394. I should have updated that. Apologies.
Yeah.
28655394. That's better. We're all back in the room now. Good to see. All right. I'll give that a few more moments just to get people in the Menti. There's just a couple of slides that are worth interacting with, just to get your thoughts. And I'll also get on it so I can see how it looks for everybody. There is also a Menti app, and you may notice that on the apps for Zoom, there is the Mentimeter app available. So as education practitioners, if you're running a Zoom session, if you're looking at doing some kind of survey or some kind of evaluation, Menti is a great tool for that. So I'm a big fan of using Mentimeter where we can. All right, let's see. I'm on the code 28655394. Brilliant. Okay, majority of people are getting there now, so that's good. We'll move on. The first slide that I've got for you is asking you in a few words, can you please provide your thoughts on international or digital transformation of education? So some thoughts from you guys in the audience to talk about those subjects, international or digital transformation of education. It's okay to use either language that you want, because I'll be sharing this PDF with you at a later date. So it'll be worthwhile if there's a range of languages. That's not going to be an issue, because this is for you. I'll be able to send this PDF to you guys, and you can share this, and hopefully that might encourage some further reflection at another point. But just in a few words, please provide us some information on your thoughts around international or digital transformation of education. Great opportunity. Sophisticating yet challenging, absolutely. Beyond time and space, indeed. 5 o'clock your time, 9 o'clock our time. Excellent. Some useful knowledge coming through now. Great to see. So I'll leave this on the screen and talk a little bit more about my background within digital transformation and what I'm working on just now. So it was during the earlier stages of COVID-19 where we started to see that there was going to be an impact on our own international education practices. So it was decided that we were going to try and look at ways to digitalize that element of it. But we know that that's a longer term project. International education as a standalone offering is happening. Students are going on mobilities. There's cross-border education and transnational education happening continually, which is great to see. The digitalization element was to enhance what was currently happening. So how can we use the digital technologies that we have to create better experiences within the international education element? All right, so we had to consider that. So that's a pedagogical question. That's something that is done within the practice, and it needs to be looked at holistically by education practitioners, by the strategic and senior management team within the colleges and universities and schools who are involved in international education. And also, without a doubt, we need to include our students and participants and learners in that process, because without including all three elements of the stakeholders, then you're missing a big chunk of what is a valuable aspect of the teaching and learning. Okay, some useful notes that we've got here. We can look at these and share these later on and discuss any of these points within the Q&A session. But that's great to have some of your input so far. Thank you for that. All right. Just to give you some context, so obviously we had a huge impact with COVID-19 on international digital education. On a domestic level, the United Kingdom and Scotland's relationship with the European Union and across the world was also affected. We had a referendum to remove ourselves from the European Union. So there was an impact on one particular program, which is called the Erasmus program, which many of you may have heard about or even participated in at some point. That was a withdrawal from that. But again, in response, there was alternative international engagement opportunities that came about. So we have to see, the context that we're within as part of what we were trying to do. Where we were trying to respond to that and make our interventions as well. Okay. So how we did that, first of all, there was a number of opportunities that came along. One of which was the Turing program, and that's just been launched recently in the last year or two, in response to the withdrawal from the Erasmus program. That was something we had to do as a UK, as an alternative to doing the Erasmus program. All right. So we made an application to the Turing scheme, which was called the Global Game Changers for 2023. So that's an active Turing project that we're working on just now. I'll talk more about that shortly. There was an additional focus for me within my own FE, within my own research to think about, because I was looking at the overall student mobility within FE, but also thinking about the digital element of that as well, how that was being done within the colleges at the moment. All right. And then today what we're going to just think about is applying some of the user experience design theory within the interventions that we're going to try to implement in our international education, our digitalization of that. So just briefly touching on that today with some of the user experience design theory. This is a educational philosophy as well, where we're really thinking about the end user, the person who's actually at the learning, the content you're trying to teach. So including them as co-authors of any design of education practice was important. All right. So first of all, the Global Game Changers project for the Turing scheme in response to our withdrawal from the Erasmus program. The focus within this was around entrepreneurship and enterprise education. I'll talk further about this shortly, because this is the content that I wanted to build the project around. The aim was also to build and develop a massive open online course, a MOOC. Many of you will have used MOOCs or equivalent kind of technologies. Those courses that you're doing on the likes of FutureLearn, Coursera, edX, these kind of places where we can access really, really useful content developed by some of the world's leading universities to give us access to educators from across the world who are keen to teach to a wider audience out with their own institution. So it was key that we had to have our participants on the Global Game Changers as co-authors of that. To give you some content then around that, I'm just going to read to you the project proposal that we put forward that's being delivered to our Global Game Changers partners. I'm not sure if you can see this part of the screen or if you're still on the Menti, but I'll read this anyway to you. So it's in partnership with the International Academy of Enterprise Educators, and also working with our project partners in Barcelona. All right. It's open to all Scottish universities and higher education institutions, and it's a part-funded 2-week international mobility experience in Barcelona in Spain. So 2 cohorts of up to 25 students, so 50 overall. They're going to be postgraduates, recent graduates, and researchers. The overseas learning experience will be combined with an on-campus and online interventions, pre and post mobility, to provide a hybrid learning and teaching experience to participants. The participants will develop vital career skills whilst also becoming creators and co-authors of an impactful, innovative and sector-leading digital learning tool that will enhance current and future provision of entrepreneurial and enterprise education. The 4-week programme of activity is delivered by the Academy of Enterprise Educators with local hosts Next Gen Careers. The timeline for the programme would be 1 week on campus and via Zoom or MS Teams. Weeks 2 and 3 would be on mobility in Barcelona in Spain, and then week 4 again on campus and via MS Teams in Zoom. Okay. The 2 cohorts would be made up of 25 undergraduates, recent graduates, postgraduates, and students, researchers as well. They're going to be entrepreneurial and enterprising university-based participants with an interest in startup, spin-outs, or developing the skills required to create innovative companies. Cohort 1 would mainly be the postgraduate and researcher students, PhD students, commencing in March 2023, with departure to Barcelona in late March. Developing the business and commercial awareness to support funding, grant investment, revenue generation activity to help the HE and university-based founders grow and accelerate their business ideas. In cohort 2 would be looking at the undergraduates and recent graduate students. That commences in May, with departure in late May for 2 weeks. Okay, this is for participants to interact and engage with like-minded entrepreneurial and enterprising students and graduates looking to develop and build early stage business ideas in supportive, nurturing and inspirational environments. So that was the idea. And the tuning scheme allowance means that participants are awarded the funds based on their individual eligibility and circumstances. So approximately £850 to £1,500 per person, depending on your personal circumstances. That would cover the cost of return airfares, travel to Barcelona, internal transfers to host venues, etc. Okay, it supports participants in obtaining suitable accommodation, and students, it would be anticipated that participants will also be required to co-finance their experience. So international education has the travel allowance, but most participants are aware that they will have to also finance part of their cost as well. That will include things like sustenance, social and cultural excursions, and other contingency costs too. Okay. We're going through the process just now of creating the notes of interest, and the applications for that will be open in December. And we have to go through a recruitment and selection process to find the most eligible and suitable applicants. And then we'll provide the preparatory workshops and the full outline of the programme at a later date. So that's the overall picture for the Turing Scheme Global Game Changers programme. The aim within that programme is then to help them with their own business idea, but also to help us to develop the content that we're going to put on the MOOC, on the massive open online course as well. So we need to include these people as co-authors to help us do that. So that's one of our interventions that we're going to look into. On the other side, we have the research. So my research at the moment has the main aim of making improvements in the management and delivery of international student mobility opportunities for Scotland's colleges of further education. So the tutoring scheme is focusing on the HE sector, and the research is also focusing on the FE sector, or the vet sector, as it's also known in other parts of the world. So that's the aim of the research. I'll go through some of the objectives of the research just now, and then I'll read to you the abstract from our research proposal, which will hopefully give a bit more depth to what we're trying to do. And you'll see how we're trying to relate both the FE and the HE activities together. Because in Scotland, we're going through an interesting process where tertiary education as a whole should be seen as one offering, as opposed to two separate offerings of HE and FE. So we're looking at seeing how we can have a parity of esteem across both the colleges and the universities. We're not quite at that level of equity at the moment. Okay, so the objective for the research is to create evidence-based research foundations to develop impactful innovations within the international pedagogies in FE colleges. So that's the first objective, evidence-based research. So what is the current position? Where are we now with our international pedagogies in colleges? And we need to understand that through a series of interviews, surveys, and qualitative and quantitative research to let us understand the foundations of where we are. How many students are going on mobility? How much money is within the budget? What kind of level of activity is being pursued? Where are we with our human resource that's being developed within that as well? What are the skills that are being developed within the teaching body, within the colleges? Okay, so that's the first objective. Where are we now? Effectively, is what we're trying to understand. Okay. Objective 2 is to investigate the college strategies for outward international student mobility programme provision, with the aim of influencing the policies and practices. I'll come on to it shortly, but there is a new international education strategy coming out of Scotland. So we want to have the colleges included within that to influence the policies and practice. Objective 3 is to investigate what improvements in organisational capacity and practice are required to deliver the most relevant, sustainable and impactful internationalisation opportunities. So that's taken our first objective to understand where we are. We've done the research and have evidence-based foundations to build on. We've understood what strategies and what plans we have as a policy within international education. And then we're trying to think, okay, what do we need to do to improve our capacity to get to that point? All right, so it's a case of where are we now? Where do we want to be? And how are we going to get there? All right, so those are our 3 objectives. Before I come on to the design thinking, I'll just read through the abstract that may be useful to give some further context around the aim of the research. So the title of the research is promoting internationalization in further and higher education, an investigation into the impact of international student opportunities in Scotland's colleges of further education. In 2022, the Scottish Government will publish its first international education strategy, in part responding to the significant alteration of the UK's relationship with the European Union and our global education partners. Since 2016, international and UK domestic economic, political and social conditions brought about from events such as Brexit, COVID-19, Scottish devolution, digital pedagogical practice and climate action will continue to impact how cross-border education is administered and implemented in the Scottish tertiary education sector. There are very limited studies of international student mobility within further education or Vocational Education and Training. College Development Network, the CDN, published their International Ambitions report in 2020, outlining the combined impact and plans for internationalisation work in the 19 FE colleges in Scotland. This followed on from the Cumberford-Luther report, named after Audrey Cumberford, the principal of Edinburgh College, and Paul Little, the principal of City of Glasgow College, that highlighted the current Scottish Government education policy on internationalisation across schools, colleges and universities. Considering international student mobility projects and activities, their overall value in financial terms, volume of participation, impact on students, staff and institutions, skills development, interpersonal relationships, experiences, progression opportunities, employability, and other important effects and factors, there is considerable need to study ISM provision in Scotland's colleges. Research aim, as I said, is to make improvements in the management and delivery of outward international student mobility opportunities for Scotland's colleges of further education. We are attempting to build on academic literature and education theory, and the research aim will be achieved through the following objectives. As I mentioned, creating the evidence-based research foundations, investigating FE college strategies, and determining improvements in organisational capacity. The methodology we're going to be looking into is an explanatory, sequential, mixed methodology design and phenomenology study. So it's the quantitative research and the qualitative research explaining the quantitative research, a sequential mixed methods. Through consultation with key mobility managers, strategic leaders, tertiary education stakeholders, practitioners and learners, this thesis is an explanatory sequential mixed methodology design and phenomenology study to determine how ISM participation experiences differ within FE colleges. Existing knowledge and understanding of outward ISM within FE vet context is currently very limited, with only a handful of studies conducted globally. The research project will be conducted over 3 distinct phases to consider ISM in all 19 colleges in Scotland. Phase 1 will create the starting point through the quantitative methods to ascertain the core knowledge and assets within FE and vet academic levels. Phase 2 will include an impartial, holistic review and analysis of the positive or negative impacts of ISM since 2016 to demonstrate if and or what improvements are required in the Scottish FE context. Quantitative methods will gather key data from key FE college personnel, followed by qualitative methods, which will include one-to-one interviews, focus groups, recruited and selected from ISM participants, practitioners and stakeholders for further data gathering and analysis. Finally, phase 3 will include appropriate impact case studies to determine the lived experiences of ISM, triangulating the research study sample that contribute and participate in outward mobilities, strategic stakeholders, staff and students. The results we're looking to understand is with the consideration of the 3 phases, will provide both the positive and negative aspects of FE and ISM and FE. For the strategic stakeholders, staff, students and colleges, the results will explore the type of projects, durations, volume of participants, budgets, costs, skills development, monitoring and evaluation practices, and operational management. We'll also look at ISM project management structures, efficiencies, language, cultural and social barriers, pedagogical practices, effect on modules, courses and programs, digital transformation, travel, restrictions, limitations, and any other significant factors that determine a college's involvement and the resource investment in outward ISM. Drawing on analysis of the new primary data, this research project will seek to directly influence the Scottish Government's international education strategy and make recommendations for interventions that will apply specifically to Scotland's FE colleges. Okay. I'll be able to share that abstract with you at another time, but that was a more in-depth understanding of the research. Hopefully that will have spurred some interest in the topic. Okay. Within combining both of them and making sure we're doing this with you know, the pedagogical theory in the background, we have the question, can learning be designed? We're clearly seeking to design into a digital and international education model, and we have to think, is that something that can actually be designed, or is it something that's done you know, less structured? Wingers and McTeague propose a backward model of design based on the idea that teaching starts with an end goal. So I have a brief diagram just to show you this in practice, to talk us through that. All right, where we start from is identifying the desired outcome and results. So we have the question of, what do students need to achieve? What are the learning outcomes? That is at the start of our actual design. Okay, if you can understand that in the first place, then the rest is built up from there. So from that question, it then raises the other question, how will we as educators know that students have achieved the outcomes? And what are the assessments and the criteria within that? So we need to determine the evidence and the assessment that's being put together to understand if a student is actually learning that outcome. And then finally, from those two questions that you're raising, first of all, the learning outcomes and the assessments, we can then plan our learning activities and tasks around that. What do students need to do to arrive at the outcome, which is the learning activities and tasks that you're going to try to implement within your teaching, the learning and teaching practices. So there is an element of design within that. Learning can be designed, but we have the learners at the front and center of that design. And this is the educational theory that we're going to base our practices on. All right. Hopefully you can see that okay. So how do we know that our interventions are having an impact? And when I say impact, I mean a sustainable impact, because we can all do things that have a short impact, and shorter term, you know, quick impacts are always desirable too. But if we're trying to truly make something worthwhile, it needs to be a sustainable impact. So the quality of the interventions need to be measurable. We need to understand our starting point and where we got to in terms of the learning and teaching that is taking place, and what parameters we're going to use to measure that. So any of our interventions has to be measurable in the first place. Our pedagogy has to be inclusive and collaborative. We need to make sure that we're including all aspects of the learning and teaching arena. That is including the students and the learners and the participants. That is including the practitioners and the educators, and that is including wider stakeholders, which also includes the people who will gain access to the skills that you're being developed, the startup businesses, the small to medium-sized enterprises, and the large corporations, regionally, locally, and across a wider geographical area. We also need to understand that our senior management stakeholders within colleges have to be included in this as well, because you can't do anything without the knowledge from the strategic stakeholders and decision makers, and also because they hold the purse strings. They have the budget responsibility for the institutions, so they need to help you get access to the funding that might be available. The education practitioners are those who are in the classroom and those who are dedicating their careers to teaching and learning, and you have to include them in the design. And then without including our young people and learners, we're never going to be able to fully understand if any learning is actually taking place. So they also have to be included in it. Education design is now a changing practice. Thankfully, we've moved on from years gone past where we all used to sit in rows and listen to somebody drawing on a chalkboard. We have progressed since those days, thankfully, but we're still progressing. It's an ever-changing landscape, and we always need to understand new practices that are happening as well, both within the areas that you're specialising in from a technical point of view, but also in the wider aspects of teaching and learning. All right. So how are we going to go about doing this within our own projects? So we need to monitor and evaluate, firstly, how the MOOC is being used and adopted, what skills are being developed, what are the longer term aims and objectives of the individuals, the institutions and the labour market, and all these things that we're asking here, these are all measurable. There is a starting point and an end point. You're able to see how important your intervention was, how useful and impactful your intervention was. You can see by volume of participants how many people were using the MOOC and how is it being adopted. You are able to see a skill that's been developed over a period of time, where that person's skill was at the start of the course to where that person's skill was at the end of the course. The longer term objectives of the labour market, for example, if you're trying to increase the number of people in employment within a particular sector, then has that number of people risen, or has it stayed flat or gone down? Those are measurable indicators of how successful you are in terms of your skill development. And the longer term aims and objectives are things that we always need to keep an eye out. Within the context of my own project, you know, we're looking at entrepreneurship and startup. So how can you understand the success of that? Well, look at the number of startups and the number of spin-outs that are being created from colleges and universities. Count how many have you got today after your intervention, how many do you have tomorrow? Okay, you can measure your success based on volumes, based on the number of successful startups and spin-outs coming out of universities, how many jobs that's created, how much revenue that's brought in, how much investment that's brought into the businesses as well, and what impact that has on the colleges and universities who are supporting. So these things are all measurable. So make sure that you're putting those things within your own context as well. All right, this is a couple of just 2 more slides, very, very briefly. This will help you to interact if you go back to your phone onto the Menti, and it gives me a sliding scale to let me understand how interested you are. How much do you agree with the following statements? So the 3 statements I have here, you can indicate to me how enthusiastic you are to learn about the digitalisation of education. 1 that you strongly disagree, 5 that you strongly agree. So you can slide it on your Menti. You should be able to do that. I hope. Yes, you can. Good. And second point, how confident are you to engage with digital approaches? Do you agree with that, or do you not agree with that? And then finally, you are now aware of how to adapt your digital practices. Do you strongly agree or strongly disagree with that point? All right. Hopefully you're able to do that. Apologies while this just reloads. So I'm coming towards the end of my presentation now. I'll leave this up for a few more seconds just so people can input there. I'll be able to share this PDF with you, so we're able to get, so you're able to get a bit more of a knowledge about some of those comments that were raised earlier on, and hopefully you'll be able to reflect on the session as well. I hope that I've been able to impart some useful knowledge to you in terms of what we're doing around our own digital transformation of international education. And I hope that that's something you're able to apply within your own practices. And if you have any interest in learning more about it, then you can get in touch with me either on LinkedIn or via email at a later date. All right. I think that's all for the slides. Most people have put a comment on there. this is an opportunity for us to have any questions. I'm going to go back to our moderator to manage this from now. But at last, it leaves me to say thank you very much. Please keep in touch. My email address is there and my LinkedIn profile is available too. All right. Back over to you, to the moderators. And I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brian. Give him applause. Yeah, there's a lot of applause of you. So it's a very informative and interesting presentation from you, Mr. Brian. Yeah, what I got here is a lot of the participants also hearing about what you already explained. Especially, I can make a conclusion a little bit. So because yeah, some of your information is a little bit cut by because we have a problem with the internet from in the middle of your presentation. But it's okay. Then we can follow another in the next step.
I can share the presentation with you all again and the abstract as well. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So so we still have time to give you a question from this from your presentation. Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please then I will open question session. And maybe from you already have a question for Mr. Brian presentation. Okay. And the first session I need 3 questions. Okay. Welcome you first. And then the second. Okay, that side. Another one with you with the pink shirt. Okay. Come around here. Ya, kamera bisa ke depan deh, Kamera bisa. Sorry. Sorry, we have prepared for the participation. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. and Mrs. and Mr. So let me introduce myself. My name is Rashika Tayakuswara. I'm from majoring film of televisions. So actually, I want to know your personal view, Mr. Brian's, about digital education's transformations. Because this change driven by COVID-19 period. What if 2 years ago there was no COVID, and what if 2 years ago would these digital transformations be carried out as quickly it is today? So thank you.
Thank you, Masita. So you can follow the question, Mr. Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. I think very briefly, COVID-19 happening meant that the pace of acceleration of the digitalization was increased. It was happening anyway. Digital education has been progressing fairly, progressively for the last 10, 20 years. Not as quick as some educators might wish, but COVID-19 really sped it up, really increased the pace for the digitalization. Had COVID-19 not have happened, we wouldn't have been at this particular point in time. We would have been, a couple of years before we get to that stage, I think. However, it did happen. And it sped it up for us. We put more resource into our digital education technologies and practices, and with that where we're at now. So we have to embrace it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yokewan. You get Masita? You answer? Okay. The second one, please. That side. Who's? Hands up. So you already missing the man. Okay, your chance now. Okay, your time, please. Sini aja, Dik.
Hello all. Let me introduce myself. My name is Keza Irfan, and I have question about sustainable impact. And the question is, what kind of result of educational design whose impact can be seen in general? Thank you. What kind of result of educational design that we can see the impact in general? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McEwan, can you, Mr. Brian, can you hear? So he asked about, okay, if you get it.
I think so, yeah. So he's looking for what kind of result are we seeing in general around sustainable impact of digital education? I think that was the general theme of the question. Results are still fairly early stage. You know, this is one of the results in action. We're having a conference with our colleagues in Indonesia online. So this is a sustainable impact. This is developing relationships. This is meeting new people. This is you know, understanding new cultures and new ways of life that we don't experience every day in our own lives, in our own locations. So those are very, very positive and sustainable impacts that we're currently witnessing. Carla and another colleague, Jackie, and I recently came back from Vietnam to explore the partnerships there. That will have a longer term impact as well. But the results are you're seeing shorter term results now with the view that longer term results will happen. But these things are done because at the front and center of all of those activities are people, and people make connections. People have to build relationships, and people are sociable animals. We like to engage with other people overseas and other parts of the world to learn, to explore cultures, to develop trade. All these things happen because people are at the front and center. So if you want to focus on impact, I would suggest that we focus on the people. Relationships are key.
Thank you, Mr. McEwan. Okay, now I give chance for the participant which follow it online. So please welcome please hands up from the online mode. Anybody there? Okay, one already chat me. Yeah, she sent chat for me. Then moment, I will open her chat. Yeah, it's from Mrs. Risky. Are you there? Mrs. Risky? Maybe Mr. Yong will asking something.
Yeah, may I have a question?
Okay.
Dr. Brain, I'm so thanks your opportunity to lecture. So I have some question in the transformation the education, especially the Zoom as a Zoom. But is some problem is Asian country have some problem. The internet is not enough. Yeah, and is the offline is also very important to learning than learning and teaching of how to helping the gap, the offline and online, and the technical issues. In UK is okay, but it's Indonesia, other countries have some problems, the internet possibilities. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so you're talking about connectivity issues with the internet and being able to access technologies, these kind of things. That was the gist of your question, yes?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. We experience that in the UK too. In Scotland, for example, we have a rural community across many parts of the country where it's countryside. There's not a lot of infrastructure, transport, technology, internet connectivity is poor. You go to the Highlands and the Islands, you go to the borders, and it's difficult for people to travel. And it's difficult for people to get online as well. So those issues occur in Scotland and the UK and other parts of the UK for sure. So that does create a gap between those who can access it and those who can't. And how do we reduce that gap? So we have to be very mindful of the fact that not everybody can afford technologies, not everybody can access equipment or these kind of things. So that has to be at the forefront of what you're trying to do. I guess the interventions that we're talking specifically about, the Turing scheme and Erasmus before that, and some of the activities that are done within colleges. Colleges are in a very privileged position where they're an anchor institution for a lot of communities. Universities tend to have a wider, more global-facing, persona, whereas colleges they are the heartbeat quite often of a local community, because that's where the skills are developed, that's where the learning and teaching is done, and that's where those people then go and work for local employers. So we're in a privileged position where we need to do that in the college sector. And our interventions have to be very mindful of students who might not be able to afford to buy a laptop or get access to the internet. And these are the kind of things that Carla will hopefully be able to talk more about this too. These are the kind of things that have to be embedded within the practices. Be mindful of the fact that not everybody accesses the internet. Not everybody has technology to bring to college. Not everybody can afford to travel overseas. Some people can. So we need to be very mindful of that.
Thank you, Brian. And if I can come in on that question as well, it's a very good question and in terms of the digital divide. And I think particularly during COVID, that became more apparent in individuals who were unable to access either the internet or have the appropriate equipment. And as Brian has rightly highlighted, colleges are at the heart of their local communities for education. Now, what we did find is we required government investment to support individuals who did not have access to technology. So we received a government grant during COVID to issue laptops to students. So we had a laptop lending scheme. So I think an awful lot of initiatives are dependent on government investment. Now, we still served our local community and we still opened up the college to those most in need. We serve around about 50 to 60% of students who come from areas of deprivation. So we very much recognise the challenge, but we could not have delivered the way we did without government intervention and government funding. Thank you.
Great question, yeah.
Is that okay? Did that answer your question, or do you have anything you would like to add?
Yes, okay, thank you so much. In the last to Dr. Frame, ask for us is three questions. But is more the last question is how to manage the digital is lower score. It means we know use the technology to education, but is how to involve how to manage the IT. Within the Dr. Brain using the menti.com support in so in any other some thought about or the some source to educate digital using the education. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not quite fully aware of what the question is. It might be around what technology resources are available to utilize. Or is that kind of the gist of the question?
Yes, but some of students and the teachers want to use the digital using digital for education, but the score is so low. So is how about the how to improve it?
Okay. Yeah, I always like to use, as you've seen, the Menti app that I use there, and that's what I like to use to interact with a digital audience and also in person in the classroom. I've used it often as well. You've got to find the one that you like and the one that you enjoy and the one you think you gain benefits from. And in our own reflective practice, think about how useful that particular technology was for that particular learning experience. Put yourself in the shoes of the learner, the participant, and look at their perspective. Always understand it from their perspective. Did they gain anything from having that technology, or was it just using the technology? You have to look at it from the perspective of the end user. If they're not gaining, if they're not benefiting, then you need to reflect in any other resource you've got and think you can do it differently next time. So use it as a tool. Don't use it as the core element of what you're trying to do. It's a tool. It's a resource. Find the resource that you like and you enjoy, and always reflect on what it's been like for the learner.
If I could maybe come in and add there, Brian, as well. So you're absolutely correct. The challenge isn't just about students accessing technology and being able to use technology to learn. Equally, there is a challenge for the lecturer. And how do they use technology to engage students? Now, we did find there was a big skills gap with our lecturers. Not all, but quite a few. So at City of Glasgow College, we have a Learning and Teaching Academy. And part of that is a full lecturer development programme. And a huge element during COVID was assigned to using digital technologies for learning and teaching. Now, this is certainly something that I can pick up with UP, with Dr. Diane, in terms of how do we create a collaboration to share the resources that we have at City of Glasgow College to support capacity development of lecturers. And this will be a sharing of best practice, but we have a full suite of training programmes that we embedded for our lecturers throughout COVID. It was a challenge. However, we have now managed to reskill all of our lecturers and built that into our teacher training programme. So I think there's a scope for collaboration here that I will follow up with UP. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mrs. Carla, and also Pak Yong. I have another question here, so you can read in the chat, maybe. It's from one of our participants. What do you think about the idea we don't need formal school anymore because we have Google or either ICTs as a tool to learn? What should we prepare as lecturer or of higher education?
Yeah, an interesting thought. Without formal education, without a structured and systematic education system, how do you make sure that you're developing the skills that your industries need, and you're reaching the standards that you need, and you're progressing in the trends that you're seeing? So if we take digital skills, for example, lots of digital skills you can do online and learn online on your own, which is great. But the support you have from an education professional, the support that you have from peer-to-peer learning goes on in the classroom, the relationships you build, the additional skills that you're developing out with the courses that you're on, the other values that a university or a college or a school brings to your own personal life, the experiences you have whilst you're at school. We can all, I'm sure, remember the best teachers. I still remember my favourite English teacher, when he threw a book and the book hit me on the head. And it was one of the most alarming moments of my education life. But he was annoyed at me because I wasn't reading good enough books, and he threw a book at me. And I remember picking it up, thinking, "Okay, I better read this book then." And it was the next level up. It was saying to you as a student, "You're not doing your best. You need to do better." Having the teacher there to inspire you, to encourage you, you can't get from other methods. So don't downplay the importance of a school and a formal education and a teacher.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Brian. So another question here in Google Chat, that what is the impact of digital transformation for education on pedagogic implementation?
That's the continual question you need to ask. That there's got to be a period of reflection to see what the impact is. I certainly think it's been positive in the main in the past 3 or 4 years, certainly since COVID. But we need to reflect on that again and continually understand, how you're implementing any of your digital transformation practices. So keep asking that question. I think we're doing okay, but we need to always reflect on it.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brian, for your question, for your answer, and already clear about what you already have present. Then let me make a little bit conclusion from what we already talked this afternoon or this evening. Yeah, with short from COVID-19 pandemic. So we have to learn about how to change the education system. I think it's not just in Indonesia and also in Scotland, but the whole world. So we have to try to find the best or the sweet system which could then run the education for all. So yeah, with the digital transformation, that's that's the one way for the education. And I am me myself agree with your presentation that which already you mentioned there in the backward design. Let me still a little bit talk about it. So in Indonesia now, the curriculum for the students is called Kurikulum Merdeka or Merdeka Belajar. So the students have freedom to find how they learn, how they get the information from internet and so on. So digital transformation is really happen here, and we already do that in this 2 years ago. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McEwan, and also Mrs. Gettin. Sorry, Carla Gettin. Then I'd like to thank to the speaker for the informative and interesting presentation, and all of the participants here for very active participation with the question in this room and also in online mode. Finally, give applause for the speaker and for you all. Thank you very much, Mr. Brian, Mrs. Carla. See you later. Then I'll back the time for the MC, please.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rustiono, to organize general lecture well, and to special speaker, Mr. Brian McEwan, and also Mrs. Carla Gettin. Thank you for a very good lecture, for the knowledge you have delivered and shared to audience. May all of us are motivated, get the value and benefit from the lecture, especially the knowledge in design virtual learning environment to face education challenge and revolution 4.0 era. Hopefully, the aim of the general lecture, as we know before, to increase the knowledge of designing and developing international educational content for virtual learning environment will be achieved. And the most important, as Mrs. Kara said, how the teacher can make the student engage in the learning. Yeah. Okay, finally, thank you once again to Mr. Brian McEwan and also to Mrs. Carla for the presentation, and also to the audience who gave some question. Yeah, a big applause for us. Finally, we come to the end of this event. Before closing, there are some souvenirs will be delivered to participants which have asked a question. So please, to Bapak Dr. Haji Bambang Rubandi, would you like to deliver the present to the questioner? Please, welcome.
Siapa tadi yang tanya pertama, Mbak sama Masnya?
Okay. Please move forward for
Okay,
the
Mrs. Carla.
audience who,
Mr. Brian, see you then.
who gave some question.
Thank
Keep in touch then.
And for Mr. Young, maybe later, yeah?
Yeah, Mr. Young later.
Okay. Thank you for
So
the
you
good questions and for the attendance. Thank you. Please have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, now come to the last agenda. To close this event, let reciting Hamdalah. Alhamdulillah. Or in according to audience faith, yeah? Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. Thank you very much for coming and your nice attention, especially to speaker, Mr. Brian McEwan, and also Mrs. Carla Gettin. Hopefully, we will meet you again in other education program. Let me say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good day there.
Thank you. See you in the next program, Mrs. Carla and Mr. Brian. We will contact.
Thank you. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama. Baik untuk adik-adik mahasiswa, jadi udah ngisi absen semua ya? Udah. Yang